Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. I am here to review Storm Center. And I say that very dramatically because it's a very dramatic title, isn't it? Storm Center. This is another Bette Davis movie. 1956 movie. So we have left the 40s. We have gone into the 50s. And first off, let me complain, because that's what you guys love to hear. Me complaining, going, nah, 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 nah. That's what I sound like. So, Bette Davis in this movie, Storm Center, wow. I am a little horrified, actually. I'm a little, it's like it's a sinking feeling. It's not a good feeling to see this movie. Because for starters, the premise, obviously, it's a very negative premise. It's very relevant to today, when they have destroyed comedy and they want to destroy everything else. And this is what I've said before. This is exactly what they want to do. They want to destroy all the culture and then rebuild their stuff on top of it. And then if you don't like what they do, then you don't matter, and you're trash, and you're this and you're that. That's what they do. That's what SJWs do. This movie, it's all about SJWs. A different kind of SJW, but still an SJW. Because there are different types. A lot of the times people just associate that with people on a certain political leaning. Obviously there's no such thing as right wing or left wing. That's completely false. Those terms are just created so that people can divide each other and say a bunch of bullshit like, oh, you're just a left lunatic, or you're just a right-wing lunatic. And it's all bullshit. It's all created so that you guys can divide. Just like with conspiracy theorists. Why was the term conspiracy theorist invented? A fun fact, the CIA invented the word conspiracy theorist to dispel people who talked against their mainstream narrative about the JFK assassination. So basically you have two sides. You have the conspiracy theorists, and then you have the normal people. That's what it always is. It's always us normal people versus those people. A specific type of... But there's all sorts of SJWs. There are SJW Karens. Karens are basically lunatic, insane women. Like the Yugoslavian bitch who I dealt with when making my film. She is an SJW. A different kind. A different breed. They come in all shapes and sizes and forms. It's not just one type of person. It's not just one type of monster. There's a lot of different types. That's why they made the movie Fantastic Beasts, because in that movie you have all sorts of different types of monsters and beasts and things. There's not just one type of thing. There's not just one type of person. And in terms of this movie, it is dealing with how do I even put it? How do I even describe these types of people without sounding like I'm, labeling and doing, some type of thing that people will be upset about? Who cares? These are the exact same type of people who say that heavy metal is the devil. If your teenager listens to heavy metal, they're gonna sacrifice animals. These are those types of people. Other things they do, I'm just trying to think of different, oh yeah, if you watch horror movies, then you're the devil. Horror movies are demonic. Witch movies are demonic and evil. Wah, 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 wah. These are those types of people that they're dealing with in this movie. And it's funny because what I liked about the movie was it wasn't really one-sided at all. It was and what I mean by that is the bad people, for the most part, they weren't just caricatures. They were people who were led astray by this piece of shit politician who, what did he want to do? He wanted to divide people so he could win his election. That's all he wanted to do. You see that with every single politician. All they do is they're on one side or the other, and then they say the other side is bad and that you should vote for them. And, that's what this movie's all about. It's a very smart movie. It's a very smart, got a lot of smart ideas. However, the script is not very good. But we will get into the movie. I just wanted to tell you guys what it was about, because I know a lot of people, I don't know, maybe they'll get upset if they talk badly about certain types of people, but it's true. Like, before they had these modern SJWs, it was different types of people who were SJWs in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s. The types of people who called everyone a communist. You're a communist. You're a communist. You're a communist. All those types of things. This is what we're dealing with now. We're basically dealing with every type of SJW all at once. And it really all started, I think SJWism started with war. Because with war, what happens with war? You divide people. You say, oh, you're on that side or the other. I think that really SJWism, it all started with the First World War. And after that, it just grew and grew and grew to the point of where now you have a whole giant book full of different types of SJWs. And they're all evil, they're all insane, and they all need to be dealt with in a smart way. And you know how you deal with SJWs? You shut them down and you fight back and you treat them like shit, like they deserve. And then what happens is they like to play the victim, but they play the victim for everything. I mean, they play the victim on a daily basis, just casually, without any sort of actual thing coming to them. So all you have to do is just throw them away, dispel them, call them trash, call them names. Don't let their opinions have any sort of validity. Don't let them have any sort of platform. Just throw them away. Throw them all away. And once they're in the trash, they'll never bother you again. Because, and that's what we have to do. That's why we've had this huge rise in cancel culture, SJW culture, is because you have all these weak-ass, ballless people, and they don't have the balls to shut SJWs down. They don't have the balls to throw away SJWs because they're like, oh no, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to upset the religious crowd. I don't want to upset the other type of crowd. I don't want to upset that type of people. I don't want to. And it's like, at a certain point, you just have to say, like, okay, well, where's the line? Like, where is the line where you draw where it's like, okay, I'm okay with upsetting all these other types of people, fans, things. I'm just getting into a full-on tangent, but this movie really, it invites it, because that's what this movie's all about. as I've already said, I guess. But the first thing I have to say is about Bette Davis herself. It's been a long 15 years since The Little Foxes, and unfortunately, Bette Davis is not very. She's getting up there, and she's getting up there in a way where you can tell it's not really, like, women, when they age, they don't look that bad. When men age, they don't look that bad, some of them. But when you do things, you can make yourself look better or worse. Like, people who don't work out, who are fat and gross, they get uglier as they get older. Or people who get tans, they get uglier when they get older. People get tattoos, they could get ugly. All these different things that you can do to yourself make you look uglier. And Bette Davis, she smokes a lot. And she has smoked so much that now she is not the Bette Davis that I knew. This is not the cookie dough ice cream flavor that I remember. And it's unfortunate because she's kind of, I don't know, like, people consider her a legend, but in my opinion, she's kind of shooting herself in the foot with the way that, she smoked what, 200 packs a day, 200 cigarettes a day. And now what has happened? She looks terrible. She looks awful. She looks way older than she actually is. I mean, she still has, what, 60, 70, 80, 90-ish. So she still has like 40 years left to where, she could still look good. She could still be happy. But instead, she looks terrible. She looks like an absolute miserable wreck of a person. And it's weird because the character is supposed to be this sweet, nice, kind librarian character, typical type of librarian character. And instead, to me, she comes off kind of disingenuous because the appearance doesn't match the character. The appearance, she looks like she would be the perfect evil librarian. Like, if you cast an evil, like let's say she turns into a monster and she's a librarian and she, has a lizard tongue and stuff like that, she would be perfect for that role. But unfortunately, in this movie, she's supposed to be like a hero. And it was a little hard to think of her that way because of how she looks. She doesn't look very happy anymore. She looks very mad and mean. She looks kind of like a witch, kind of like a closeted witch who likes to be a witch at home, and she hides it, and she casts spells on people. She looks very, very sinister. Which I guess maybe that could work to the movie's benefit, but I don't know. It's kind of sad because it's like she is so beautiful in the 30s, the 40s, the 20s. She's so beautiful. And now she's kind of like, ugh. She's kind of, her looks are waning. They're waning for sure. And it's very sad. And I know that's a little off topic from the movie as well. And I'm already 13 minutes in, but it's very distracting for me. Like, I notice these types of little details, these types of things. It's hard not to notice because you're staring at her face. She, as I've said before, she's an actress who can say a lot without even talking. And so when you're just looking at her face, it's hard sometimes because when you're looking, it's like, oh, she looks kind of weird. She looks kind of evil and strange. Like she's got something really sinister going on, like she's a kidnapper or something. Like, she looks pretty creepy. Anyways, it's starting to rain now. It's starting to really pour. Sorry, guys. I know that's going to affect the audio a little bit. This movie is about a librarian who, she loves children. She wants to build a children's ward in the library. She's very, very involved with children and helping them learn to read and encouraging them to read instead of being retards like, jock type of people, people on the different sports teams. She wants them to be smart people. And so she encourages them and gives them books, lets them take books home. She's a very nice librarian. But unfortunately, this is the 50s, and in the 50s, one of the big issues was if people were a communist or not. You know how nowadays the people with the whole Ukrainian flags on their profile pictures, and You know, the way that they treat anyone who's Russian, you know. Don't go and support your local Russian restaurant in the U.S. because you're supporting genocide. You know, those types of retards. This movie basically deals with those, but in the 50s. And in the 50s, basically, if you ever had any sort of like, oh, there was this one time when I was a teenager and I voted for a communist, like, oh no, that person is evil. They're the worst person in the universe. You know, all this insane, mentally ill, psychotic thinking, of course, from these SJWs. And the problem with this particular librarian is that she has a communist book in her library. Oh no! She has a book in her library! Ah! and so it's called The Communist Dream. And it's basically like a communist propaganda book. Kind of like all the things that Disney makes nowadays, you know, typical propaganda material. And she's just like, no, why should I remove this from the library? That's none of your business. You know, I shouldn't have to remove anything from the library because books are books and censorship is bad. Everyone should agree censorship is bad. Of course, they don't nowadays. They love censorship nowadays. I mean, that is like their number one thing because censorship allows you to tell a one-sided story where you can say, oh, you can say whatever you want basically because the other side or any other sides, they can't tell their story because it's been censored. So it's just all one-sided bullshit. And then there's this politician and he gets mad that she was involved with this communist group. Well, it wasn't even a communist group. It was a group that was like a committee to further better relations with the Soviet Union. Like, what's communist about that? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And so, and then they used her name without her consent for certain things, and they made her look like she was a hardcore communist by using her name illegally. And there's this politician and he takes advantage because she won't censor herself. And then they even wanted, this is what's really creepy, is that they even wanted to be able to screen all the books. This town hall, these guys, they wanted to have all the books she was going to add to the library so that they could screen them and see what they thought about them. And, oh, we don't want to add that. We don't want to add that. And so, obviously, that's disgusting, evil. It's like what they do nowadays, in a way, with the whole ratings board. You know, that's what the ratings board is really about. It's about censorship. And that's what this town hall is about in this movie. And there was this really good scene with the town hall where they're having this really important meeting. They're all in suits and they look like these big important people. And it's funny because they're having this meeting and you can hear this noise in the background that's coming from outside, kind of like the rain now. And it's like this drilling, like, like this jackhammer. And it's just so funny that this big important town hall is meeting and they're discussing these big important issues, and then in the background you hear it's like, you know, these people they're not as important as they think they are. And just like with me, like you know, I can't ask the universe to stop raining so I can film a stupid little movie review. And so I thought that was great, actually. It was actually a great idea. It's just the jackhammering that's bothering these stupid politicians with their little censorship meeting. And so then they fire the librarian because basically cancel culture. They fire her and they get rid of her for their reputation, cancel culture. And then what happens is the kids, who she was very nice to and she didn't do anything wrong with them, they all turn on her and become like these little demon fucker children. Like, they're like fucking children of the corn children to this librarian now. And it is so creepy. Like, these children, they are evil. Like, they are fucking evil. Like, these are like Hitler Youth children, really, really creepy children in this movie. In particular, there's this one kid, and he is the main kid of the movie. His name is Freddy, and he is so evil. It's kind of fake. It's really fake and phony, because he just hears his piece of shit dad talk about her and call her bad names downstairs. And then all of a sudden he hates her for some reason. And then for the rest of the movie, he's doing things badly to her, and he's a real piece of shit. And let me tell you, like, okay, well, I'll talk about that stuff later, because he does some things that are really evil, this little piece of shit kid. I mean, you guys thought Richard Thomas and Give Us Barbaros, whatever the fuck that movie was called, the religious propaganda movie, you thought that kid was creepy and evil? This kid takes the cake. This is probably the most evil kid I've ever seen on screen. He's so evil, it's actually kind of laughable. And so let's talk about other things in the movie. I was so excited to like this movie because I thought the premise is great. It's a great premise. It's a very, very good story, in my opinion. But the script was not very good. It was very basic. It was very one-dimensional for the most part. There were a few really nice touches, like the thing with the jackhammer, and then the thing with making the cancel culture a lot more three-dimensional. That was good. And then some stuff at the end was really, really powerful, but I'll talk about that in the spoilers. And I thought it was also funny because for some reason, now nobody else would notice this, but in this movie they eat soup for some reason. They eat soup the entire movie. They're just obsessed with soup. Like, they are so obsessed with soup. I don't know what the deal is. Like, every single time that they eat in this movie, they are eating soup. Every single time. It's almost like the film production was so cheap that all they could eat was soup. Like, canned soup. Like, they go out to a restaurant, the town hall. I guess that's more messaging, is that, like the town hall, they go to this fancy restaurant, and then all they eat is soup, which is the same thing that, like, the middle-class family that they're eating at home. Oh, okay. I guess that's more intelligent messaging. And messaging in this movie is fine with me because, number one, it's not too over the top, and number two, it fits with the story. Okay? Like, if you're gonna make a movie about communism cancel culture, then this is the way to go. But if you make a movie about Spider-Man and you have this messaging in it, that's where it gets bad. That's where you draw the line. And so I thought it was funny. You could take a shot every time in this movie they eat soup. Every single time, like, all the characters, soup, soup, soup. The only kid who doesn't want to eat soup, the only person, is Freddy, the little piece of shit kid. He just wants to read at the table, and then he runs away because he doesn't want to eat his soup. And it's like, I don't blame him. Like, if I had to eat soup like this all the time, I'd probably, like, jump off a cliff, because who wants to just eat soup, or who just wants to eat one kind of thing all the time? It also could be, you could consider it like a communist parallel too. The fact that, they all have to eat soup all the time. Soup, 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 soup. Oh, wait. Okay, I forgot. There is one scene where Freddy and his father, Freddy has a soda at the soda shop, and his father has a little ice cream sundae with lots of nuts, because he is nuts. I think that was also intentional. So, really, I think that the messaging of this movie is just how easily people can turn against other people because of division, political division, any kind of division. If they're just fed with one lie, then they can, they'll want to destroy that person's life. Or even if it's not, like, who cares? Like, these people, they're evil. These types of people, these SJWs, they're evil. No matter what type of political person they are, if they're like this, they're evil. And you can see with the politician, he's really the most evil person in the movie because he knows what he's doing is bad, and the only reason he's doing it is to further his own political career. Just like all these politicians do all the time nowadays. You had the thing where, people in California aren't allowed to travel to Florida or Texas. And, why is that? Why is that? Stuff like that, I mean, this is the type of stuff that we're dealing with now. And they also had this great messaging at the end that I'll talk about in spoilers, which is probably the ending of this movie is the best part of the whole movie. It was so good. I started getting I'm totally in Bette Davis's corner against this disgusting town of SJWs. Anyways, I kind of like this movie. I kind of didn't. I would say that this is my least favorite now of all the Bette Davis movies. Because it just wasn't that good. Like, it for all the good messaging and the good writing in terms of the main plot, it wasn't written very well in terms of, like, the plot specifics. Like, the ideas were good. The ideas of, like, oh, this woman, she's forced to remove a communist book, she won't do it. Like, that's a good idea, but the way that it's executed is unfortunately really pretty amateurish and poor. I thought in general, like, this movie was pretty poor. Like, this movie was a pretty junky movie, but I still liked it. I still kind of liked it, especially the ending. But I don't know if I'd ever watch this again, except for maybe, like, I don't know. Like, it's just not very good. It's just okay. It's just very basic. It's very, very basic, and it's just nowhere near as good as it could have been. Like, I'd really like to see, like, a movie about this subject matter, but done well. And I think that I have seen some movies like that, like Trumbo was very, very good. That movie talked all about SJWs back then. Of course, with him, that screenwriter. I don't know, this movie was very basic, and so now I'm going to rate it in terms of food, and I'm sorry if this review has been all over the place, but the movie itself really doesn't invite very much to talk about because it's just so basic and so amateurish. Like, this feels like a first movie for the writer, and I don't think it was, so I don't know. I would give this movie a bowl of soup. And I know you're asking, Marco, what kind of soup? I don't know. You pick. Pick and choose. This movie is so basic and so bare minimum. It could just be any canned soup. You just get a can of soup. Some generic soup. You pour it in a pot. You heat it up. You eat that for dinner. You just slurp it down. And it's like, God, this is so boring. Like, I want to have, like, a sandwich with this. What I like to do with chicken noodle soup is I like to have one sandwich that has cheese, and I like to have another sandwich that has peanut butter and jelly. And peanut butter and jelly dipped in chicken noodle soup, it's a very interesting taste. Very, very good. And, I'd like to have that. I'd like to have something else with it, some bread and butter or something. But instead, all we get is just this generic, plain old bowl of soup. And the worst part is that, spoiler alert, Bette Davis does not get a stare moment in this movie. She does not get very much of one. In fact, she gets, it's like a 10-second stare followed by some good dialogue. And I thought that that was the saddest part, because that was the best part of the movie, the ending. But it really didn't feel like Bette Davis. In fact, that's another thing, is that Bette Davis in this movie, it felt like she has been cloned, and this clone is like the inferior version of Bette Davis. She really doesn't have many Bette Davis moments. It doesn't feel like it's the true Bette Davis that we know and love. It feels like a bargain bin Bette Davis performance. But she's still pretty good. You know, she's fine. But that piece of shit kid, Freddie goes to this, the opening of the children's ward, and he won the contest to write, like, something. He had to write a story for school. And, of course, they also had some good messaging in the movie about how censorship, a lot of those beliefs came from these piece of shit people who, they don't respect books. They don't respect reading, writing, stuff like that. They don't respect that. So it's a lot easier for them to say, yeah, let's censor people. Let's cancel that librarian. You know, why? Because it all started with their disrespect for books and disrespect for writing and reading. That's where it all came from. And so this guy's dad, he was glad that his son turned evil, because he wanted his son to get into sports. And so it's just all about his little secret agendas. And so the kid, he's at this it's what's supposed to be a celebratory event. And he reads all the books that the children are going to get in the children's ward. Which I thought that was kind of queer, because it's like, oh, look, the public approves of all these books. And so they're the books that they're going to allow in the children's ward. It's like, oh, that's more censorship. Because, you know, nowadays, people would have problems with like 99% of these books. Like 95% of these books, people would say, oh, we can't have that book because that's problematic. You know what I mean? And so then, there's this one guy on the town hall, and he is on Bette Davis's side, and he invites her to come and speak and dig a hole in the ground to celebrate. And she comes, and everyone's upset except for a few people who aren't SJWs, which I thought that was cool too, because they didn't just make it like, oh, the whole town is evil. It's just like, it's very complicated in this movie. It's very complex, the ideas that, you know, not everyone is like that one way that you think. So I thought that was good. And Bette Davis, she invites Freddie to come over and help her dig the hole. And Freddie goes up to her and he yells at her. He calls her all these bad things. You know, what an extremely disrespectful piece of shit, evil kid. And it's so hilarious because Bette Davis, she does the most badass thing of her entire movie career so far. She takes this kid and she smacks him like 50 times, and then she shakes him back and forth. And it's like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen Bette Davis do ever. Like, it is the greatest thing. She just goes smack, 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 smack. And he runs away like a little piece of shit coward. And I thought that was like the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, see what I mean? How why does every single old movie have all this smacking in it? All this smacking, like, what was the obsession with smacking? It was either smacking women on the rear or smacking people in the face. Like, it's really funny. And she just goes, smack, 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 smack. It is the greatest thing. And he so deserved it, too. I was so happy that she did that. And of course, oh, that made her look worse. Wah, wah, wah. And then Freddy does the unthinkable, and I thought it would be the townspeople who burnt down the library, but it was Freddy. And that's another thing, is that you could actually pretend like this is the younger Freddy from The Master, and you could pretend that even though the time periods don't line up. But this Freddy, he really seems like the Freddy in The Master, the way he causes all this chaos, the way that, just all of his behaviorisms. It's exactly like Freddy in that movie. And so he burns down the library because, screw books. Books are bad. Censorship is good. And it's really fantastic. The final scene is the greatest. The final scene, I have to admit, it is one of the best scenes I've seen all year. Okay, you have the whole town. They're all looking in horror at the library being burnt down, because back then, people all agreed that censorship was bad. You didn't have... Sorry. You didn't have all these piece of shit people who, want to censor things and want to cancel people. Oh, remove that person from that movie and replace them with that person because that man bad. Like they did in that Army of the Dead movie. That one guy, he did stuff that was bad, apparently. So, let's recast him with that one woman, and like they all applauded it, like that's something to be proud of. It's cancel culture. And people back then, at least, these were good people back then. Good American people who believed censorship is bad. And they all looked at the library. They all have faces of horror. And instead of just Bette Davis having, like a stare down, it was the whole town having these looks. And, like, you could tell exactly what they felt by their looks. And I just thought that was so amazing. It was such a fantastic moment. And then the politician's girlfriend, she says that she's sick of, she doesn't want to be with the politician anymore. And because she realizes that, this is all the politician's fault. He's the one who started this. He's the one who caused the town to be divided. Nobody cared about any of this nonsensical crap until this politician made it an issue. And she had a great little stare down with him and with the library, the burning library. Fantastic acting without any talking. And then you have this amazing shot where they show the whole town. They're all looking over, and Bette Davis is there. And earlier on in the movie, she said, I don't like to see any book destroyed. I can't stand to see a book destroyed. And then you see her, and she looks up at the library, and she doesn't say anything. She does the Bette Davis stare. For just like 10 seconds, though, unfortunately. I kind of wanted that to be longer. And then she says, this is my fault. This all happened because I didn't fight. And I am going to fight now. And I'm not leaving town. I'm not going to be a victim of cancel culture. I'm going to stay here. And I'm going to rebuild the library. And I'm going to stand up to all these disgusting people. These evil people who want to censor and burn books. And that was the whole issue. That she basically says the whole movie, it was actually her who was the problem because she didn't fight. And she didn't stand up for herself. And I actually thought that was great because it was true. The whole movie, she was very weak. She was very like, I'm just going to be very nice and very agreeable. And then at the end of the movie, and see, hey, another strong female character in the 50s. Stop with your fucking nonsensical BS alternate history of Hollywood where you pretend like there weren't strong women until 2010. This female character was strong. She had a character arc. The whole character arc was about her becoming a strong woman. And still it wasn't enough for you disgusting people. These disgusting SJWs who she was fighting in this movie. And so she's like, you know what? If people want to ban another book, if they want to try to burn another book in this library, they're going to have to do it over my dead body. And I just thought that was the greatest fucking thing. Like, I just wanted to stand up and cheer for Bette Davis to fight back against these cancerous, cancel culture SJW freaks. So I thought that was great. You know, this movie, it wasn't the strongest movie, but it ended with a bang. And that's another thing too, is that like I almost felt like it's too bad that this movie wasn't like a 2-hour movie, and you didn't have the fight, you know, you didn't have, because you could say that like this movie wasn't complete, you know, you wanted to see like 40 to 50 more minutes of her being a fighter now, you know, because the whole movie she really wasn't a fighter, and so it would have been nice to see that, but still it was very, very good at the very end. So yeah. So anyways, please like this video, comment, what did you think about Storm Center? And that's another thing, I don't understand the title. I love the title. I love Storm Center. That's such a cool title, but I really didn't understand why it was called Storm Center. And then please subscribe if you'd like to see more movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.